How you perceive reality and your surroundings and yourself is based on your mind's interpretation of what's going on. So basically, you create your own reality by knowing what you know. Hi everyone, this is Sam, and today I would like to talk about how negative experience and negative thoughts actually come into being, and where they're stored and what they actually are. Like, I want to take a closer look at where they come from, how they develop, and also what they are and how they shape our reality. Um, so yeah, let's just get started. I finally have a camera back so I can make these talks again. um, so what I want to talk about is there's a lot of information on the internet you can find around negative thoughts and how to get rid of them, like how to program your mind to think positively, how to have positive experience. It seems that humanity at this stage really craves for positive experience and for like liberation from the pain, from the suffering, and from negativity in all aspects. There's a hell lot of information on the internet which you can find, and I want to kind of like give an overview to how negative experience and negative thoughts actually come into being, how they're created, and to then with that understanding go towards resolving these negative thoughts and negative behaviors and negative patterns, negative experiences that we recreate in our life, in our environment, in ourselves. Um, and I kind of want to get away from the approach of suppressing things and fighting things. So I don't want to, I will not give you any advice on how to best not think negatively, because I think negative thoughts are actually a very valuable aspect of yourself and of myself as well, like of our being. They're showing something. They're like pointers to something deeper, which we haven't seen yet or which we haven't understood yet. So I think they're really valuable, and I don't want to get rid of them. I just want to understand them, and I want to give that understanding also to you. So that's why I make this video and explain all of this. So how negative experiences and negative thoughts come into being. Um, it's actually based on how we perceive our surroundings, how we perceive ourselves, how we interpretate the things that are going on around us. That's what creates negative experience and negative thoughts. There's like a mind, we have like a mind that has stored information from past experiences, and that is continuously bringing these old experiences up, these old wounds that we kind of carry with ourselves since our childhood, and all this stuff that is stored in the mind, in our body mind, and in our also in our cognitive mind. That shapes our reality, that shapes our lives, that shapes our experiences. Because what's happening is that when we were younger, when we were a child, it's known that from the age from 0, like when you're born, even before that, even during pregnancy, and when you're born until the age of like 6, around 6 somehow, and then also in puberty, these are the ages where these are the times where we are most profoundly influenced and shaped in how we behave, how we perceive ourselves, how we interpret reality, um, what we think of the things that are happening around us. These are the times which are most in which we are most open to being influenced and shaped. So what happens is that in this time, like from 0, like when we were born, to 6 years old, there's a lot of stuff that we experience as human beings, and we experience these things because we live in a society which is on a certain level of consciousness and is applying methods and techniques to raise children to become also to that certain level of consciousness, and also to fit into the society and the structures that are given at the moment. So children are actually raised to behave. They're raised to fit in, to adapt. They're raised to think of others before themselves. They are raised to suppress their own needs, their own feelings. So a lot of things are happening in child raising, which are actually um, uh, which are actually bad in a sense for human development. And when we experience this stuff, I can make an example that was, so it's clear to see what I'm talking about. Um, for example, there's a child. It's around 1 or 2 years old, and it has its desires. Like it needs food, it needs love, it needs something to drink, it needs shelter, it needs care, whatever. It needs somebody who changes the diapers. So all these needs are there, and if these needs can't be fulfilled by the caretakers, by the parents, whoever, if these needs can't be fulfilled, then the child will go through a natural through natural phases of protest. So first, it just expresses its need, of course, not with language, but with other means of expressing needs. So it creates something that causes that draws attention to the child. And if that doesn't work, then the child will go into crying, into sadness. And as soon as that doesn't work either, if that doesn't draw the attention to the child, so the desire and the need is not fulfilled, then the child will go into more protest, which come with anger and rage. And if this doesn't work, then the child will drop into resignation and stop asking for that need, because for the child it's way too way too hurtful and way too overwhelming to feel the need and have it not fulfilled. That's just too painful. Children can't handle that. The nervous system can't handle that energy in the body. So what the child does, it kind of collapses into not wanting that thing. So that's one example. Like the child suppresses its need if it has that experience in the childhood, and what happens is that actually shapes the child's self-perception and the perception of the world, because at that point the child doesn't have any cognitive understanding of what's happening. So the child kind of has this experience. It goes into resignation, it goes into collapse, and the energy is stuck in the system, like that energy of I didn't get what I wanted, I didn't get what I needed, and that energy is stuck in the body, in the nervous system, and they're like muscular armors that are created to protect the child from ever feeling that hurt again. And with that, also, as the child grows, with that experience also grows self-perception and the perception of the world that is shaped by this experience. And because it's before cognitive understanding, we don't actually know. We can't cognitively understand that this experience happened, and that we perceive the world. For example, as I said in this example, we would perceive the world, or this child would perceive the world as a place where needs cannot be met, or that specific need cannot be met. So the child, or as it grows and becomes an adult, that adult will always believe that this need cannot be met, and that there's something wrong with having that need in the first place. And that person also will develop some coping strategies to handle that resignation and that energy that's still in the body, that's still stored in the body. That the reality of not having that need met is still in the body, it's still in the mind, it's stored there. So that person will always carry that energy with him or her, and he or she will need to create a coping mechanism to deal with that energy. So if you use the example again, that person might use the coping mechanism to kind of like build identity around the idea that he or she doesn't have any needs at all. Like, I'm not needy. Like, everybody else is needy, but I'm not. So I'm taking care of everybody else, and I'm helping, and kind of like they have like this kind of like an ego satisfaction in that, because they're kind of like above the others. Or you can also go in the other extreme and like feel like totally there's nothing can ever fulfill me, nothing can ever satisfy me, because I have these needs and they cannot be met. So like there are different ways of coping with these things that we're experiencing in our childhood. And that's what creates reality. That's what, like, what we experience in childhood, and even things that we experience before we cognitively understand these things, they shape our identity. They shape how we perceive ourselves. They shape how we perceive the world. They shape how we interact with the world. And they shape what experiences we recreate over and over and over again in the outside world. So if you ever experience something like having a fight with a girl, or like with a girlfriend, and then you kind of break up and you have another girlfriend sometime later, and you have the exact same fights, that's recreating our experiences in the outside world, because they're stored in our body, they're stored in our mind. Like there's something in our mind, like a old wound or an old hurt that couldn't heal really, that couldn't really be integrated and become a part of the bigger whole that is I. So these things, they're just there, and they start expressing themselves, and that's also how we, if we have an interaction with a person, and there's a reaction that comes back from the person that is totally like ununderstandable for us, it's probably because there's something that person picks up on from the energy we broadcasting. And that might be that you're experiencing this over and over again, like from different person. For example, you start an interaction with a person, then there comes anger, or like they're blocking you or something like that, and you might experience that with a lot of persons. Then that might be a really good indication that there's something in your subconsciousness, something in your shadow, that is kind of like broadcasting an energy of that initial old childhood experience, and it's kind of like recreating that experience over and over again, so you can actually integrate it and heal it. So it's actually a good thing, but it's fucking painful to have that or experiencing that all the time and over again. Yeah, and that's also the point why I'm against, or I'm not for techniques that use kind of like positive focus, or things that are um, um, are focused on suppressing certain aspects of myself. For example, negative thoughts, or trying to flee from negative experiencing by always keeping a good positive mind. I don't really go for that, because how I see it is, if as soon as I suppress negative thoughts, I kind of suppress a part of myself. I suppress a part of myself that wants to show me something in that situation, and I push it aside. And what happens is that energy is still there. I can't just get rid of that energy. I cannot. It's a part of myself. So when I try to get rid of that energy will just redirect and appear somewhere else. Like um, if I always suppress my shame in contact with people, that shame will come back to me in another situation. That shame might come back in me as soon as I'm alone, and then I notice, whoa, holy shit! Like I felt so much shame, and I'm feeling it now. So I'm kind of feeling shame about what I did there, because I couldn't face the shame in that situation and really go into it and feel it and heal it by integrating it. So as soon as I push something aside that is there in my experiencing right now, that is there in my reality right now, as soon as I push it aside, it will just pop up somewhere else. So there's actually not really a use to positive focus, um, or any other technique that tries to suppress aspects of myself. Yeah. So what you can do, or what I do, to um, learn from these experiences that I have, and learn from the negative thoughts that I have, and learn from the reality that I live in. Like I kind of try to understand the reality that I live in, and from there on understand what happened and what shaped me in a certain way. Not to change it, but to just be able to integrate myself, like integrate all these parts that are there, that are split off from myself, and understand these parts and then integrate them. And I think, as far as I can tell, there are like two ways on how you can do this. And one way is, there's these informations that happened, like these experiences that happened in childhood. All this stuff is stored in the body. There's like a body mind. The body has a great intelligence, to store information, but also to release information in a really intelligent way. And the brain is always like my head is most of the time is in the way, for the body to just express itself and then release that energy that is there. So as soon as I can kind of like tap into a state of mind where I just allow my body to express itself, then the body will just take over, and there's like this intuitive knowing on what I need, and what I need to do to release that energy that is stored in my body. And how you can do that easier, or in a simpler way, is when you use techniques like, for example, TRE is a very good technique which you can use, which you can find in the internet, like the information on what it is. It's called trauma and tension release exercise, and it's something that really speaks to the body, that kind of like releases the energy in the nervous system from the body, and that really gives you back the power over your body. Like you can feel yourself deeply connected with your body, and also like stuff just falls away, like things that is stored in the body. As soon as the body can express it and you can integrate it, then that energy is gone, and you don't need to recreate that energy and that experience over and over again. Like you've learned what it wanted to show, and you could also integrate that part into yourself, and so they're kind of like, you become bigger as an I as well, and you become more integrated and whole. But that kind of needs also a bit of courage to just let your body express that stuff that's there, and it needs the understanding of what's going on, like where that does these emotions come from, why are they there, how do I react with them, like it needs some understanding to be able to kind of like drop into your body, and from there on just express that stuff that's there, that is stored. And there's also another way, as far as I can tell, there's like the mind that is more centered around cognitive understanding, and there's the mind that is more centered around bodily expression, and also and just that body intelligence. And I think one way is through the body, by just expressing what's there, and the other way is through the cognitive understanding, or I don't know if it's really a cognitive understanding. I would rather call it like an intuitive understanding, which is more based on experiencing and seeing, and then integrating from there on, like integrating from meditating on a certain subject, for example, like meditating on a certain situation or a feeling that you have at that moment, and then really go deep in that meditation, and feel what's there, or see what's there in your head, if there's negative thoughts, or if there are any thoughts at all. So you can really meditate on these experiences that you have as thoughts or as feelings, and then just like intuitively follow that thread where it leads. So you can kind of like see what's the belief behind that feeling. Like if I feel fear, like what's the belief behind that fear, and then go deeper and see, okay, yeah, that's the belief, okay, but why, like how did it came into being, what happened, and then you can go deeper in that as well. And the overall thing that is really needed for, as I see it, for integrating and becoming whole, and stop recreating these negative experiences and negative thoughts, what's really needed is an acceptance for what's there at this moment. There needs to be an acceptance in myself, for the state I'm in right now. And I need to accept that in the first place, and from there on then start to explore into the deeper layers. And also when I'm with my body, if I'm expressing with my body, I also need to accept what's there right now. I can't skip something, or I can't live in an ideal. That's not possible. So for healing to really occur, you need to kind of accept the place you're in right now, and then from there on start